Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Monday. Not what you call a super happy Monday in Gamecock land.
No, I've been trying to focus on the positives. Not a whole lot. I'll say that much.
Tough road. That was a tough weekend. And look, can't sugarcoat it. You can't put lipstick on it. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Definitely a kick in the gut and in the teeth and below the belt. A few other places.
Don't forget about that kick in the lower extremities that you took on Saturday.
Fortunately, you had Sunday off, so you could, wallow in pain for at least a day to get ready for the week.
Because, I mean, look, all you can do is you got to find a way to get up, dust yourself off, and go to Knoxville.
Nobody's feeling sorry for you.
No, not at all. Not at all. And right now, Tennessee's looking at you as, some wounded animal stumbling across the road, and they have the 18-wheeler coming right at you.
And that's the thing is, does Georgia look like one of the best teams in the country right now? Offensively, yes, absolutely. But the fan base here says so.
Yeah.
Beat them.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like, and you and I were talking this morning. It's tough enough to get swept, especially in a big series, when hosting is on the line, right? But then you get swept by Georgia. Not what you call a baseball power. Like if LSU comes in, like let's say last year, LSU comes in, or Florida comes in last year, and they sweep you, you go, well, that's Florida or LSU.
Yeah.
And they're really good, and they're a baseball powerhouse.
Sure.
Georgia comes in and sweeps you. And the manner of, 39 runs in 3 games?
Yeah, sounds right.
36, 39, whatever it was. I lost count. It was I can't count that high.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And so you were the first 2 games you were pretty much you were whooped. You were taken to the woodshed. Third game you got the lead late. You got a 6-4 lead, and you moved into the late innings. If your pen can hold it, at least you win 1, and your pen explodes.
Yep.
And then you get swept, and you go from being up 6-4 to being down 14-6.
In the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And that was the thing too. We talked about this earlier. Like, you go into that 9th inning, you're down 10-6. Not great, obviously. But you say, okay, you might be able to put something together by the 9th. You're down 8 runs going into the 9th inning. I mean, go ahead and head for the exits.
Yeah.
Get in your car, beat the traffic. Like, this one's over.
Yeah. I mean, look, Garrett Gainey was solid, above solid. He did a nice job against that lineup. Gainey did a nice job, and then the bullpen just couldn't keep it together. And God love Connor McCreary. You throw 90 right down the middle with the bases loaded to this lineup.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
That was just poor location. It just really is. And when you watch it, I went back and rewound to that moment, and I was like, so I wanted to see the pitch over again and see the bat over again. And I'm like, 90 down the middle against these guys.
Not fooling anybody with that one.
And it was straight, by the way. No movement.
Yeah.
Down the middle, 90 miles an hour. That thing was screaming, please hit me. Hit me a long way. It was rough. It just was.
By the way, that doesn't mean somebody won the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway, by the way.
No, because it wasn't for Georgia.
It was not.
No. So we're up to $1,275. And we got 3 games left.
Yes.
It just, look, we're not going to sit here and say, well, Joe, let's, look at the bright side. Look, okay, if you want to go bright side, the offense was good enough to win a couple games.
You scored 21 points over 3 games, or runs over 3 games. It should be enough to at least give you 1 or 2 wins.
Right. You should win 1 or 2, or in a perfect world, win the series, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't get swept. And so offensively, they did enough to be able to win a game or 2. And again, Austin Brindling was really good on Saturday, had 3 knocks. Petrie had the double that could have been a home run. But one of the biggest things you saw this weekend, as good as you were offensively, the biggest difference is you're hitting singles and doubles. Georgia's hitting home runs.
Yeah.
And, again, a pitching staff in Georgia that has been getting better. Still, this is not like a upper-level pitching staff. So you did get your runs. You just didn't hit a lot of home runs. In Georgia was hitting the ball over the fence for 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference in the two offenses was both of them were getting their share. It's just One was jabbing a lot, and the other was knocking you down. So just a rough weekend all the way around. Out-pitched, out-hit, out-everythinged. He had a couple of bad errors on Saturday that didn't help you either. It was just rough, man. Now, you guys got to bounce back. You got to go on the road, and you're going to go play a top 10 RPI team that's the number one team in the country in D1 baseball that's been playing really well for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to go into their barn and find a way to pull at least a win out of this whole thing. I mean, I think your hosting hopes are over unless you sweep Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so. And if nothing else, you just want to have some semblance of momentum going into Hoover, a place that has not treated you well over the years, and then wherever you end up getting shipped off to for a regional, you just don't want to limp your way into the postseason because momentum matters in baseball.
It's just one of those things where, you know, if you worst case scenario is you go to Knoxville and get swept.
Right.
Now, God forbid if that would happen, then you go have a quick exit out of Hoover.
And you might be asking the question of, are you safely in the postseason?
Are you safe?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you think the RPI is going to save them. And I think at the end of the day, the RPI will get them in the tournament.
It should. Now,
but
I guess it depends on how you lose those games.
Yeah, I mean, if you really scuffle in, you know, against Tennessee on the road and then go to Hoover and get one and done in that play-in, that's and obviously it depends on the factors of what other teams do and all this other stuff.
Sure.
But all you can do is put yourself in the best position, right?
Yeah.
That would not be putting you in the best position.
No.
But look, stranger things have happened in life. Could you go and you know, shock the world and go into Knoxville and all of a sudden do some damage? Anything's possible. We don't know.
Of course.
But right now, when you take a step back and look at the big picture and what we've just seen with that pitching staff,
well,
I mean, all right, let's start here. Friday, what are you going to do Thursday? What are you going to do Thursday?
I don't know.
Who are you starting Thursday?
It can't be Roman Kimball.
No, I know. I don't know who it is. I know
Yeah.
it shouldn't be Roman Kimball. God love him.
Yeah.
He can't find home plate.
No.
And when he did, Georgia barreled it, right? So you can't really, are you just going to say screw it and start Ty Good? And say, forget this, you're my long man to follow the opener. Now, you know what? You're just going to start.
Yeah.
You do that.
That's probably your best option, I guess.
I mean, so maybe you start Ty Good Friday. Eli Jones, it hasn't been happening in the last 3 weeks now.
But he's been the only consistent part of the rotation. What's that worth at this point? I don't know. I can't think. I mean, Gainey's going to be starting at some point this weekend, whether that be on Friday or Saturday. So you would think Jones would get that other start, but
because I want to give Gainey as much rest as possible before he gets the ball.
Yeah, so likely Saturday.
Yeah, so I feel like you're going to go Jones Friday, you're going to go Gainey Saturday, and maybe you just start Ty Good on Thursday, and just
that sounds good enough. But again, like I hate that you're having this discussion heading into the last series of the season.
Well, that shows you the problem, right? That we're having this discussion. We're going, okay, who are you going to start? And your answer was, I
don't know.
When you start with it, it's never a good answer.
It's not.
You know, it's like, so who's piloting the plane? I mean, it's just, that is never a great answer. And right now, which has now become the most important series of your season.
Yeah.
Who are you starting? Do we replace TBA with
It's more realistic, I feel like.
Yeah, and I mean,
because at least with the TBA, there's like a strategy behind it. Like, okay, we're going to see who we use on Thursday and Friday or Friday and Saturday to set us up for what it's going to look like on Sunday. But I don't know. It's just like, we'll throw somebody out there.
TBA is like I've got a plan A, B, and C, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's a plan A, B, and C. I mean, I'm sure Mark has it. Good luck. Good luck after watching the last couple of weeks.
Timmy, if you throw in this weekend, no, get out there.
My name's not Timmy, by the way.
I don't care. Get out there.
Just get out there.
I'm a outfielder also.
You got an arm? Good. Going out there. And that's just kind of where you're at. I mean, well, you said this, and it wasn't quite to this level, but it wasn't far off. If your starters combined for 5 innings like against Missouri, against Georgia, you're not winning a game.
No. And again, we got to give Gainey his flowers because he did a great job.
Oh, Gainey far and away was the best pitcher of the weekend.
But between Roman Kimball and Eli Jones, 3 1/3 innings.
Yeah.
And 3 of those were Eli Jones.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Kingston talks about, Kimball, if Kimball slows down, or gets in a rhythm, rather. If he gets in a rhythm, that's where he's at his best. It's when he goes too slow or goes too fast, he has trouble. He had a ton of trouble on Thursday. And Jones had a bunch of trouble on Friday. But you know what? It's magical. When you get a solid start, Tyler, you got a chance to win a baseball game.
Of course.
And that's what happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
This world, and look, I love analytics. I do. Check my computer.
Sure.
I love analytics. I got all sorts of goofy analytic websites up on my computer. But I will always be a firm believer. As much as we have devalued starting pitching in baseball, if you've got good starting pitching, your chance to win is so much better than using openers and piecing things together and overthinking the room with this guy's on this pitch count and this guy can only do this. We've got a backup guy to come in for this guy. If you have 3 good starting pitchers, I still believe that's the best way to win in baseball.
Well, it prevents you from constantly having to play from behind.
Yeah. Look at that. You saw what happened. I mean, the worst case scenario happened Thursday. Worst case scenario. Because first of all, it put you behind the 8 ball, took your fans out of the game, and 3 got Georgia going.
Yep.
Worst thing happened on Thursday. And Friday again, it didn't start well because your starting pitcher had issues. But then Saturday, you had a dude who came out and gave you a good start. You had a 4-1 lead.
Yeah.
And you hand off to your pen. If your pen could have been what your pen was like. And look, I know Missouri is nowhere near the offensive team Georgia is. But if you could have got the bullpen performance like you did in the Missouri series, we'd have walked out winning one of these games. But again, your bullpen it didn't happen. And you end up getting swept. And you wasted a good solid start from Garrett Gainey, who I agree with you will get the ball, I think, next Saturday.
Yeah.
So it was a tough weekend, man. We're not going to sit here and try to shine you on it. We don't do that. It was rough. And you got to figure out a way to have starters do something this coming up weekend because guess which team scores more runs in the SEC than Georgia?
Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to figure out something. You got to get something out of your starters. All right, we'll get in here and listen to some post-game on Saturday from Coach Kingston. So we'll hear what Mark said about what happened this weekend. Again, it was a tough one. It was a rough weekend. And we'll hear what the coach had to say about it. That's coming up next. It's a halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. We're rolling this baby till 3 here on The Game. Halftime show with Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We roll till 3 here on the game. Obviously talking about a rough weekend for Gamecock baseball, getting swept by the Georgia Bulldogs at Founders. Again, like we said, first riff of the show. Unless you go to Tennessee and sweep the Volunteers to get to the magic number of 16, you're probably not hosting. That's safe to say.
I would say not. I haven't checked the latest D1 in a few minutes here, but usually it's a day or two into the week before they announce or put out their latest field of 64 projections. And remember, South Carolina dropped from like 10 to 16 last week after winning a series on the road at Missouri and not looking overly impressive, in their opinion, doing it. So I can't imagine what getting swept by Georgia, who is only a couple of seeds higher than them at 14 going into the weekend, is going to do. So I agree with you. Outside of a miracle sweep of Tennessee, I don't think you're going to be hosting a regional, which, again, that means they could send you anywhere, which, again, is, the disadvantage of having to go on the road there. So, see what happens and see where South Carolina shakes out in the latest projections. They did fall from 13th to 24th in the latest standings.
Yeah, so it feels like unless you can really go into Tennessee and find a way to 180 this past weekend,
right?
It feels like hosting is not going to be an option.
Right.
But you're still trying to put yourself in the best position as you can for the NCAAs. So you're going to go into Tennessee starting on Thursday. Thursday, 6:15, Friday, 6:15, and Saturday, 1:45?
12:45.
12:45. Let me look. Yeah, it's right. It's in this paper right in front of me, Tyler. 12:45 on Saturday. So 6:15 Thursday, 6:15 Friday, 12:45 Saturday. That's when our coverage begins for the 3-game set against Tennessee. All right, so Coach Kingston, after the game, first of all, giving his thoughts on which was a very tough weekend.
Well, Georgia played their ass off all weekend, and we did not. So for 7 innings today, I thought we were going to win that game. Gainey did great, did exactly what we thought he would in the starting role, and then obviously it all fell in on us those last 2 innings. So got to be better from that, and we will.
I mean, there's not a whole lot to say at that point if you're Mark Kingston, but, they just beat the hell out of us. What were we going to, I mean, especially Thursday and Friday, we got run over.
And sometimes you just got to tip your cap to a better team. And offensively, Georgia, out of this world. Defensively, they made some mistakes. South Carolina capitalized on a lot of that early in the game on Saturday, that third inning where they were able to get a couple runs across because Georgia just couldn't seem to throw the ball into people's gloves there. So they weren't perfect by any means, but I think this also goes back to what we mentioned a moment ago. Like, you have a Georgia program that's routinely, I would say, probably been below you in terms of the pecking order of the SEC, one that has underachieved in the eyes of their fan base. That's why they fired Scott Strickland at the end of last year, because he couldn't get him to a super regional. This was a team that went to multiple Omaha trips back in the 2000s, played the World Series in 2008. So you have a program that you feel like you've been ahead of for a while now, certainly in the past decade, and they come in with the first-year head coach and run you out of your own building. That's what makes this win or loss looks worse, because, man, Kingston, you've been here for 7 years, and this guy comes in here with a brand new team, essentially, and does that to you. That's bad.
And the Achilles heel that we talked about coming into the season showed up at the worst possible time, and that was the pitching. And you just couldn't get anybody out. You're behind in counts. You were forced to throw what they call non-quality type strikes, because you just got to get it over. You got to throw strikes. And a lot of times you're leaving it out in the zone, and these Georgia dudes don't miss it. And you and I talked about this last week multiple times. This offense was not a one-man show. This wasn't all Condon.
No.
And we were talking about this because people were saying, well, you got to walk him. You got to walk him. You got to pitch around him. I get you. But you saw over those 3 games, you can feel free. Walk them all you want, because they got a lot of other dudes that are you're fighting for a bat to go to home plate.
How many people are glad Trey Phelps is not going to be taking any more at-bats at Founders Park this year?
Oh, Trey Phelps is bummed. He likes that ball, but he might want to transfer to South Carolina to hit
He had
Founders.
the time of his life this weekend.
I mean, and that's what it was. It's just a really good offense. It wasn't one guy. And we kept trying to drive that point home. There was, I think, 8 guys in that lineup had OPS over 900.
Yep.
they can flat out tear you up. And I think 3 or 4 guys walk more than they strike out. In this day and age, that's unbelievable.
Right.
So you ran into a buzzsaw. Unfortunately, it was on your home field. And like you said, a program that typically you're better than. And then they came in and took you apart. All right, here's Coach Kingston also talking about what the message to his team was after this weekend.
Both, a little bit of both. I talked to him about how this game was not meant to pat you on the back. This is a game built on failure that will beat you up, give you a lot of highs and give you a lot of lows, and you need to handle it properly. And this game will make a man out of you if you play it long enough. And this was one of those weekends that we took a lot of gut punches that we got to make sure we grow from and become tougher from. Again, tip my cap to Georgia. It's amazing what they've done. They've turned that program around in very short order thanks to the transfer portal. It's probably the best offense we saw all year, and we've got to pitch better regardless of who we're playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the pitch. They've got to find a way to patch something together. And like we said a little while ago, you really don't want to be having that conversation this time of year.
It's not ideal.
No, you're not. Well, who are you going to start Friday? Don't know. Saturday, we think it's going to be Eli Jones. Sunday, we're pretty good on Garrett Gainey.
Yeah.
But it's been the last few weeks, the pitching has run into the problems that a lot of folks were concerned about coming into the year.
And again, the offense didn't do a bad job this weekend. Scoring again, you score on an average 7 runs a game, especially scoring 10 on Thursday night. That should be enough to get you at least one win.
Right. You should at least walk away from this series with a W.
Yeah.
Losing the series, okay. I mean, again, Georgia raked for 3 days.
Sure.
But you scored enough runs to find a way to cobble together one win. And unfortunately, you didn't because, well, you didn't pitch well at all. You had one guy who really had could go, okay, might bring a weekend, and that was Gainey. And everybody else, for the most part, had their struggles. Defensively, also, there were some struggles. Tell you, Will Tippett made a nice play yesterday, though. That spinorama there at shortstop in the hole.
It is nice to have him back.
That was a very nice play.
Yeah.
But they're just it was a rough weekend all the way around. There was some defensive issues. There was obviously some pitching problems offensively. You scored 21 runs, but, that was a Georgia team that was hitting a ton of homers. And unfortunately, you had to score more than 21 runs to pull a win.
Yeah.
So, but out of everything, the offense fared better than everyone over the weekend.
Right.
All right, we will get back in here. We'll get back to some Mark Kingston. But we will talk to our NASCAR correspondent Tyler Head on his weekend at Darlington.
I almost got involved in a little bit of a scuffle there. Fun day.
Yeah, I mean, did you get in the middle of that thing?
Almost. I thought things were going to go south.
Interesting weekend for you. You got to hang in the pits, hung out with the future starting quarterback at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Almost got into a brawl.
Yeah.
You had a good weekend.
Fun.
We'll get into that next with Tyler. What happened at Darlington? Very interesting NASCAR race yesterday. We'll get into that next halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head here till 3 on the game.
him, but Brad Keselowski pulling away. They're getting ready to lose their minds in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Here's Keselowski off the corner.
The drought for Brad Keselowski is about to come to an end, and Ford is going back to victory lane. Off for final time. Brad Keselowski under the checkered flag, and Brad Keselowski has won the Goodyear 400 Darlington Raceway. Career win number 36 for Brad Keselowski. He wins over Ty Gibbs, Josh Berry, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Briscoe.
Been a long time since old Brad Keselowski got the checkered flag.
110 races.
Yeah, so Brad Keselowski and Ford. Now, he was driving a Ford Pinto, correct?
Be a Mustang.
Now, the cool old school Mustang or those ugly Mustangs of the 80s?
The Dark Horse, the latest one.
Yeah, see, I like the cool Mustangs. I had one of those ugly 80s, early 90s Mustangs.
Oh, my best friend's mom had one of those when we were kids growing up.
Yeah, it was good. I kind of got the car because I needed a car at that point, and I was in between cars, so I bought it, and every part of the car was a different color. I had multicolored racing doors.
I think you got ripped off.
Yeah. By the way, I had to bleed the brake line every week, so it would actually stop.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would have to use the emergency brake to stop it. This was a fantastic car.
Why does the labeling on the car say Mustang?
yeah. They spelled Mustang wrong. So anyway, Keselowski gets the win in a Ford, and Ford's they haven't been very successful here lately either.
That was their first win out of the top 3 national series this entire year. Which, considering the fact that they won all 3 championships last year, that's kind of surprising. Yeah,
it is a little weird to go from that high of a high to struggling like this.
So they introduced the Dark Horse is a new Mustang body. So anytime you have a new body, you are going to have some growing pains. I don't think anybody expected it to be this severe, but they've been looking better as of late. I mean, Chris Buescher lost by 3 inches last weekend. So they've been there, knocking on the door, and finally able to break through this weekend. But he had a little assistance in getting to the front. Yeah, I'll say that much.
Speaking of old Chris has been in the news the last 2 weeks.
He's had an interesting month of May so far, and we're only halfway through.
So Buescher, who again lost by a nostril hair last week, this week it was looking. I'm not saying it was looking pretty good for him to win because, from what I understand, his tires were kind of.
He was leading late, so. Keselowski and Reddick got together off turn 4. Buescher shoots to the inside. Great move. 3 wide. He's running in the paint on the front stretch. Nobody goes down there. Makes a great move. He didn't have the best car. Reddick was running him back down. Reddick, who had time to make a move, decided to go for it with 10 laps to go and ran them both in the wall. Cut both their tires. They're both out of the race now, have to pit, and all that kind of stuff. Hands the win to Keselowski at that point. So, needless to say, Chris Buescher was not happy afterwards.
And Chris Buescher decided to let our boy Reddick know how unhappy he was. Now, the thing is, Chris is a little bit bigger than Mr. Reddick.
Well, everybody's bigger than him. I mean, Tyler Reddick's
4'3",
4'11" on a good day.
God love him. And I mean, does he have to sit in a child seat?
Probably. He has a son that's 3 that's about his size.
He's going to be taller than him by the time he's in elementary school?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I mean, and God love, because Reddick, I mean, you could just see, he's like, yeah, man, my bad. Sorry. For
one thing, he kept the helmet on.
Well, I was going to say, the smartest thing he did was keep the helmet on.
Because nobody's going to, we've seen people throw punches in football with helmets on,
and what happens to your hand?
It hurts.
Yes.
So kept the helmet on.
Very smart move
on his part. Immediately apologized.
Yes.
And the funny part is, because when you have arguments, when you have fights, especially in racing, regardless of if you're right or wrong, you're going to argue your point.
Sure.
Hey, I didn't like what you did. Well, I did this because of that. And then that's where the fist gets thrown and you get crew members jumping in this. Chris Buescher didn't know how to react when he apologized immediately. He's just kind of he didn't know what to do with the rest of his anger.
Right. Well, that happens, though. If you've ever had your car hit.
Sure.
You get out of the car, you're mad.
You're ready to yell at someone.
You want to kill somebody.
Yeah.
I had an accident where a car hit the car I was driving. My car hit the median and I flipped over.
Yeah. Oh God.
And I was so mad
Yeah.
that. So the seatbelt pushed me toward it stopped me, but I was like easing toward the windshield, and I eased back. And the whole time I'm like, as soon as the seatbelt stops,
I'm going to
get out and I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm getting out. I'm crawling through the blown out passenger window, right?
Right.
And all I know is I'm going to kill somebody. And I get out, and I swear this guy sounded just like Crocodile Dundee runs. Because all the traffic stopped. Because when a car flips over, everybody stops, right?
Of course.
So I'm crawling out of the car. And there is going to be death and destruction, right? So I'm getting ready to walk toward the car that hit me. And this guy comes up, he sounds just like Crocodile Dundee. He goes, "Crikey, mate, you all right?" I go, "I'm fine." They're not going to be fine, but I'm fine. He goes, "You got to sit down. You could have like head trauma or internal injuries." I go, no, the head trauma is going to be right over here. But and
I split their head wide open in a minute.
And I wanted to say to him, "I love your movies, but just leave me alone right now." So I'm walking toward this car. It takes a lot to get me like this. I'm ready to kill somebody.
Right.
And so I'm walking over. Door opens in the car. I'm ready to slide over the hood and just start. Hey, hi, your head's now going to meet your windshield because I'm beyond pissed. Door opens. Out of the car comes an 80-year-old lady. So I grab her. No, I'm kidding. No. So
it's like,
it was. And so I won't lie to you. My first thought was, "Oh my God, I just hit my grandma. My grandma just hit me with a car." So I go from wanting to kill somebody. She's got this little cane. She's, "Oh my God, honey, are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine. Are you all right?" "Are you all right?"
It'll buff out.
I swear. And the woman, she gives me this little hug, and I'm sitting there going, "You okay? You're all right, right? Everything's gonna be fine." You know what? Just because it's totaled, it doesn't matter. I mean, I went from wanting to kill somebody because she's apologizing and she's sweet, and I go from to, "Oh my God, are you all right? Are you okay?"
Local man strangles elderly woman on the side of the road.
It was like, I just went from, the whole thing turned, because first of all, she was so nice.
Yeah.
Two, she's 80 for the love of God.
Yeah.
And she's apologized and blah, blah, blah. So I got to get where old Chris was at. It's like, no, I need you to say something to me so I can pop you in the head.
Yeah.
After you take off the helmet.
Give me something. Give me something where when I punch you, it's justified. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm going to feel good because I earned this. Look what you just did to me. Second week in a row, I've been screwed out of a possible W.
It was so funny. So here's the thing. Jen and I were on pit road at the end of this race. Tyler Reddick had the number one pit stall, which at the end of pit road, pit exit, was routinely winning the race off pit road each and every time they had pit stops. So we're down there because he's in position to win, wanted to get the reaction of his crew and all that kind of stuff. And the big screen's right there too. So we're watching the last couple of the laps of this race play out. And as soon as the race ended, I jet for pit road because media is able to go on pit road, talk to the drivers after the race. And just as I'm getting there, as Buescher's car pulled up right to the entrance of pit road, and I just see a swarm of people going towards Reddick's car. I can't see what's happening, but it's just body after body, just jumping in their cameras and phones and all this kind of stuff. I think they're fighting. I can't really tell because I'm on the other side of this thing. And again, it just ended up kind of being a verbal debate where they felt the crowd's going nuts in the background. I'm trying not to get run over by Fox crews and cameras and all this kind of stuff. And people are moving all over the place. There's cars coming up and down pit road. It was a very chaotic scene.
Okay, between you and me, because no one's listening but us, were you hoping they were fighting?
A little bit. Yeah.
Of course you are.
But at the same time, because when that happens, the crews get into it. It turns into full-on like hockey brawl.
Oh, that's what it is. It's like crew on crew violence.
So
it's fantastic.
I'm looking over my shoulder, making sure that no 6'4" ex-linebacker is about to bowl over me trying to get into this thing.
Oh man! So unfortunately, nobody fought. They just talked.
It was a verbal debate.
Yes,
more than anything.
Much to your disappointment. But you also Brad Keselowski also had a good luck charm.
He did.
And you ended up hanging out with the good luck charm. Tell me this story with Lenore Sellers. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I had no idea he was going to be there. No indication of it beforehand. And I'm on the grid pre-race, and there's a lot of celebrities and athletes and stuff that they go to races, and I'm just hanging out on pit road, and I look up and he sticks out above everyone because he's so dang tall. I'm like, that's Lenore Sellers. he's just standing there. And here's the interesting thing, because I thought about this, like if this was Rattler like a year ago, I mean, crowds of people and like, hey, did you hear Rattler's here? And I got a picture with him, and I'm like, we'll get so much attention. And there was a few people that I saw come up to him and recognize him, stuff like that, but he was just kind of very inconspicuous. He is not known far and wide yet. And even maybe some more casual South Carolina fans may not be able to pick him out of a crowd. They will in time, I'm sure, if he lives up to lives up to the billing. But it's just so interesting, like seeing him in that setting where he's not like being hoarded by people. And went over there. Obviously, you remembered me from when he was in here with us for the Garnet Trust Hour and stuff like that. He was a guest of Brad Keselowski and sat on the 6 box the entire race. And lo and behold, they won. I'm just saying, there's something about the kid that breeds winning.
Well, I think this morning, like Bill and Preston were saying, take him to Knoxville.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Take him to Knoxville. Put him in the dugout.
Hey, Lenoris, this is Coach Kingston. We'd love to have you as our esteemed. We'll get you a uniform. You can, I don't know, you can throw the first pitch out. We can put you in the bullpen. You can do whatever you want to do. Just come with us.
All right, so I do want to get the audio of Bushler post race, because I thought this was interesting. Going back to the accident and the maybe kind of scuffle. Here's Chris Bushler post race about what happened with him and Tyler Reddick.
We got wrecked. I don't. I mean, that one's clear as day. Don't need any cameras to tell us, but I don't know what to say. We've raced each other really clean through the years. Try to be respectful about it, and thanks, Jack. Try to be really respectful about it, and we get used up. It's something that you just know is not going to work. So, just really pissed off about it right now. We certainly had a chance to win another one. Really proud to have that speed. Huge congratulations to Brad and the Six Bunch and Castro on their win. That's awesome. But man, I wanted it for our Fifth Third Bank group right here.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Just saying. You had fun though, didn't you, bud? That was your dude. That is such your wheelhouse.
I went home last night covered in dirt, tire rubber. I was sunburnt. I had a great time.
You smelled like axle grease. It was fantastic.
The captivating smell of I don't know. I wish I could bottle that aroma.
I bet you the wife wishes you could too.
I'm sure she wishes.
Yeah. All right, Firehouse Subtext the hour. Come next 803-404-6100 halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We're hanging out here till 3 on the game. Time to get our Firehouse sub text to the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler? Head off the text line, my friend.
Yeah, Sam weighs in. This is in reference to one of the cuts we played from Kingston a little while ago. Says, that's head coach that sounds checked out, that or a head coach that sees his fate and it's not bright.
Interesting. I've had one other person say to me that he sounded sort of kind of down the road there.
Sure.
But, I always try to, it's almost, can you say anything right at that point?
But at the same time, like, Kingston is so even keel. Mm-hmm. What does his, dejected actually sound like? I don't think there's, a huge difference between, feeling great and not feeling great when it comes to, his manner of speaking.
Yeah, I just feel like when you lose that series in the manner in which South Carolina lost it, nothing you're going to say.
No, there's no fix.
Is that the fans are going to go, okay, cool, on to Tennessee.
Yeah.
No, and Texter, I'm not saying you're wrong, because you might be correct. Because
sure.
Mark didn't stop over my place for beers after he did the press conference. I know his state of mind, but I just feel like when things go sideways for a team, and especially when there's an expectation going into a series or a game, and things don't go well for you, nothing you're going to say is going to be the right thing.
No.
It's sort of like when you totally screw up in your relationship and you do something really stupid and boneheaded. Whatever you say right afterwards does not matter.
It doesn't.
Because it's wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. Even if you say, you know what, I'm really sorry I'm wrong. Oh, you are wrong. Yes, you are. Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Right.
But if you fought back, why can't you just admit you're wrong? Nothing you say is going to be the right thing at this point.
Yeah. The best thing to say is nothing, and sometimes that doesn't suffice either.
Well, that comes off wrong too, right?
It's like, oh, so you got nothing to say.
You got nothing to say here? And we'll put it back to Kingston. Oh, you got nothing to say after that?
Yeah.
We want an explanation. And if you give an explanation, it's like, that's your explanation?
He wasn't going to win no matter what angle you look at it.
No, you don't. And I understand it from a fan perspective. We've all been there as fans.
Sure.
Something like this happens and whatever's said, you go like this,
Yeah.
Because that's just, you had, again, win the series. The thought was you got to win the series because that puts you in the perfect spot to most likely host, right?
Right.
And not only did you not win the series, you got swept. Mm-hmm. And the manner you got beat doesn't make the fan base feel good either.
And it's at home.
Yes.
And the last time you got swept at home was 5 years ago.
Yes.
It doesn't happen very often. Like, Founders Park is supposed to be a tough place to come in here and win. And listening to Wes, who was out there all weekend, he gave his account. It's like, it didn't seem like the fan base was as juiced for this game or for these games that he was out there for. Because they just knew that they didn't have the chance.
Well, we had this conversation. We've had it on and off all year. This team, if you look at the numbers and the analytics and all these things, RPI, strength of schedule, you look at these series, they played so many good teams, and they have, aggregate scores and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the eye test, you went, So maybe that had to do with coming into this 3-game series, a fan base going, about their baseball team because the eye test hasn't worked as well as some of the numbers. And maybe that's part of what Wes was seeing. I don't know. Real quick here, we have a little Twitter poll up at 1075 The Game on Twitter X. Poll question of the day. After the sweep against Georgia, what's your investment level in the rest of the season for Gamecocks baseball? Don't stop believing. Cautiously optimistic. Pessimistic but invested. Ready for football season. So that's 4 of them. What do you think? First of all, I'll let you predict. Which one do you think's leading the way right now with 907 views and 126 votes already? We just started it.
Give me the options again.
Don't stop believing.
Yep.
Cautiously optimistic. Pessimistic but invested. Ready for football season.
Oh, I'm going to go with ready for football winning.
50%.
50%.
Look at you, Nostradamus.
Yikes. But I get it. I get it.
Yeah, and pessimistic, but Pessimistic when invested is 30%. Cautiously optimistic is 13%. Don't stop believing 7%. Now, if you went and swept Tennessee and Knoxville, which right now looks like a very large ask.
Yeah.
But if you did somehow, and then you did this poll again, everything would flip around.
Baseball is such a what have you done for me lately type of sport. And again, you won 3 out of the last 4 series, but with the fact you got swept this past weekend, that is the most recent thing you've done. And that's what people are going to go off of.
In such a big series.
Yep.
So that's our Twitter X poll. Again, go to 1075 The Game and put your vote in. We appreciate it. We'll come back. It's football in the 1 o'clock hour here on The Game. 1 o'clock hour means football, and football.
So we're going to talk about the USFL, right?
Yes, those Birmingham Stallions.
Wait, what did Preston say this morning? They set the USFL record for the fastest to clinch a postseason berth. Now we're only talking about the recent USFL, not the 80s version.
No, not the classic 80s version where they had actual NFL players.
Those 3 whole years of history, they really set the bar.
You figure all those years.
Oh, think of all the amazing players that have come through the USFL, like, you know, and also...
Don't forget that guy, one guy. Remember the one guy?
A.J. McCarron. He plays on, I think, the St. Louis team.
Hasn't he played on every team in the USFL/XFL?
I think literally, if you ask me to name one player from that league, he's the only one I could name.
It's so sad. When you think of him, you don't think of his NFL career or his football career. You think, wow, he still got that hot wife?
So he does still, by the way. My God, the quarterbacks get all the pretty women, Brett Musburger.
I know. All we're ever going to remember from that game, because Alabama just took Notre Dame to the woodshed.
I fell asleep during that game. That's how bad it was.
Bad. I was working for Sporting News Yahoo Sports Radio at the time, and the game was on. I was on the air while the game was on.
Yeah.
And they just kept showing her. It's like the guy in the truck, game's a blowout. Show the pretty girl. Just keep showing the pretty girl. Game's a blowout.
Now, was that as bad as his thing with the Florida State sorority girls? 10,000 red-blooded Americans just put in their application to Florida State University.
Hey, you know what? Don't get me wrong. It's creepy. But also, there's always this part of me that says, wow, you know what? A guy, well, Brett Musburger's about 105.
Yeah, something like that.
I also say, though, but you know what, though? It's good to know that at 105, still thinking. Good for you, Brent, even though you're kind of coming off as a creeper.
Maybe. But getting back to the USFL thing, they because he plays for I think it's the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah.
They played the Birmingham Stallions last weekend, whenever it was, and like their social media presented him playing in Alabama as like this hero's return. It didn't come off that way.
Yeah.
Like you know, this wasn't a packed stadium giving him a standing ovation. Like, I'm sure there were Alabama fans. They're like, hey, it's cool. A.J. McCarron's back in the state of Alabama. But it was not what it was put out there to be.
You didn't see the statue ceremony?
I did not.
Okay. I mean, look, I get it. They're trying to play up any angle they can, right?
Sure.
Anything. But if you go to an Alabama football fan and you're going to talk about the greats that have played in Tuscaloosa,
sure,
no one's going to go, and don't forget A.J. McCarron.
Yeah. A.J. McCarron was a part of that string of quarterbacks at Alabama that it's like, hey, throw for $180, maybe 200. Don't throw an interception to just hand it off to insert great running back here, Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson, and we'll win a national championship. You'll get a
defense.
ring, all that kind of stuff. You know, he got to go to the Heisman ceremony. That was more of like a career achievement award more than anything else. Like, nobody really thought he was going to win the Heisman Trophy.
Nor should he have.
Exactly. He was not deserving of that. But, you know, he was in that era of, you know, game manager quarterbacks that, hey, the system worked for them.
At Alabama. The way that whole thing was set up, guys like him were perfect. It's when Nick started losing to Ole Miss, and Nick lost to Johnny Football and A&M. Nick got religion.
Nick Saban won a national championship with Jake Coker and Greg McElroy.
Yes.
Like, come on now.
Think of that triangle.
Yeah.
McCarron, Coker, McElroy.
And McCarron at least had a better run in the NFL than those two guys had.
McElroy had, what, a cup of coffee and a half?
He was briefly with the Jets.
Yes.
He was behind Tebow on the depth chart, if that tells you anything.
And Coker.
I don't think Coker even got.
No.
He may have got a tryout.
He got season tickets.
Yeah, something like that. But just, I think he's hunting in the woods in Florida somewhere.
Think about that era of quarterback.
Yeah.
And think about how that would not work at all now.
No, not at all.
The game has changed so much offensively.
The closest thing you could say would be a J.J. McCarthy, but at the same time, apparently he has more of talent that just did not get unleashed because it didn't need to be. He played a game manager type of role. Didn't mean necessarily was, but the pieces around him were so good he didn't have to be Superman.
Well, let's put it this way. Take aside what I think or you think of J.J. McCarthy for a minute. Let's just push that aside.
Sure.
He was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft.
Yes, he was.
Was Jake Coker?
He was not.
Was A.J. McCarron?
He was not.
How about our boy Greg McElroy?
He was not. There's a reason that an Alabama quarterback could not win an NFL game for 30 years until Hurts and Tua got into the league.
I mean, what changed with Nick, because again, Nick saw the writing on the wall.
Sure.
Again, lost a couple games to Ole Miss in that spread offense with Hugh Freeze. Lost to Johnny Football in that spread offense at A&M. And Nick went like this, I got to change.
Yeah.
I got to change.
And that's what great coaches do. They say, okay, game's going this way. I can be stubborn, and we can continue to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but we're going to suddenly start going 8-4 no matter how good the talent on our team is, because that's not how football is being played now. And he's like, all right, hey, Lane Kiffin, get in here.
It's like, personally, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
But come in here and be my offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
It's just, you watch J.J. McCarthy because he is probably the closest to that era of Bama quarterback.
Sure.
But again, forget what, like me, I wouldn't have drafted him that high if it's me.
No.
Because I don't think you have a body of work that shows you he can be the guy you say, here, go, let's go win us games. But there is a level of talent there that is higher than any of those old school game manager Bama quarterbacks.
Right.
There just is. But it's just in the world today, that formula doesn't work.
No.
It just doesn't. And really, to be fair to J.J. McCarthy, there were times, very few times he had to step up and play, like that last drive against Alabama, for an example, when they went down the field. He made throws. That game against TCU, he made some awful throws, but he also made some really good throws because they had to stay in that game. That game was crazy. So, to be fair, in those times he was asked to step up, he showed you something at least.
Right.
Again, not enough for me to take him that high in the draft, but it showed you more than you'd see in the same situation from a McCarron or a McElroy or a Coker, to be fair.
Sure.
All right, so I forgot how we started this, USFL.
That's
and
right.
the Birmingham Stallions. I just totally blanked.
Hey, look, we're in the month of May. We still got a couple days until the schedule releases for the NFL.
A lot of rabbit holes, man.
So
a lot of rabbit holes.
You can dive into a lot of different rabbit holes of football.
And we're going to get to them all. I wanted to get to real quick, South Carolina. Offensive line, there could be a transfer portal addition. Maybe, if not this player, there could be an offensive lineman at some point popping through the portal. And again, it's not that this person's brought in to start or the same situation we saw at wide receiver, but if nothing else, a depth piece.
Yeah.
The latest one, again, Pete Nakos from 1-3 reports that South Carolina will conduct an in-home visit with former Chattanooga standout Colin Truitt on Friday. Now, Tulane has offered Truitt. South Carolina hasn't. Truitt started 34 games. He was all Southern Conference twice. He's a grad transfer. So, again, those rules are different. But we'll see. I mean, it feels like they are going to add an offensive lineman in some way, shape, or form before this thing's over with. Well, the kid Hubbard was another one they had for the visit last weekend, right?
Yeah,
the weekend before.
Yeah, I believe so. And that, when we went into the spring cycle, we knew Carolina had addressed most of their needs in the winter portal. And I've said this plenty of times before. If they got nothing out of the portal this spring, assuming they didn't lose a bunch of guys, they're still going to be fine. We say, okay, we got a couple of scholarships. Let's go out. Let's get 2 wide receivers, which they did. And you got one guy in Vendarius Jacobs that, it could be a long-term play with him being a redshirt freshman that could develop into something, really special in time. And then Delvon Campbell, who addresses that need of, hey, let's go get a tall, lanky wide receiver that, is can be a downfield target, can get high-point contested catches, that kind of stuff. So you address that need there. And the only other thing you would really be looking for is, all right, let's add another body to the offensive line room. Like you said, not somebody that, hey, we got to get in and find a left tackle or something like that. Like, no, just add another body to the room. If he gets in there and he's the best player, then sure, put him in the starting lineup. But that's not the expectation for whoever this is coming in. It just adds depth to a place that you struggled with depth because of the injuries last year.
And the kid Hubbard, we're talking about Stephen Hubbard, UTEP transfer. Right now he's committed to Vandy. He made his official visit earlier this month, and there's been nothing really heard from since that one.
Right.
The other kid from Ohio State, Vimahi,
Yes.
something like that. Yeah, he ended up at Washington at UW.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they are looking around to add an offensive lineman through the portal. So we'll see where that goes, and could it be Truitt? We'll find out. We'll see. But that's a little Gamecock news. As I keep knocking out my headphones this morning.
I've noticed that. I'm like, what's going on over there? See, that's why you got to have these things a little more stable.
Yeah, I don't like them anymore. They bug the top of my head now. I got 5 hairs.
I was gonna say you're feeling the headphone on skin contact.
Yeah, it just bugs me. Because back when I wore the old school cans like you have, that's when I had my hair.
Yeah.
And once I didn't have my hair, the just started bugging me.
See, you're not like a big hat guy.
I used to be.
Okay.
For a period of time, I went through a hat phase, and I had like 100 of them. I had a ton of hats.
Yeah.
And then I was in it for probably a year, and then I said, okay, I'm done.
See, I'm a big hat guy.
For a while there, I was sporting, but I was a wear my hat backwards guy.
Yeah,
because I had hair.
I mix it up.
I had hair because if you don't have hair, the hat backwards just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
It probably is a little bit of a funny look.
It's a weird look because one day was
you get that weird sunburn line of
just right here. Yeah, it's like right there on the front of your head, and you look like kind of like a goober. I threw the hat on backwards. I was mowing the lawn. I threw the hat on backwards, right? And then I went back in the house, and I saw myself in the mirror with the hat on backwards, and I was like, I can't do that anymore.
I'm never going to do this again.
I can't do that anymore. It does not work. All right, we'll get back in football. The NFL schedule is out this weekend, or this week, I think Wednesday officially.
Yes.
We already know the first game, though.
Yes, we do.
And we'll talk about that next. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, rolling up until 3 here on the game. Football, 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, appreciate you hanging out as we cook this baby till 3. And, I mean, you could be listening in your car, on your car stereo, in your house. Could be listening on your laptop, your desktop, or you could be carting your phone or device around. And if you are, we appreciate you downloading 107.5 The Game. And whether it's iTunes, Google Play, thank you very much for popping our app and listening to the game. We're watching us here on the Game TV. Hey, what's up? Hey!
Hopefully, if you're listening in your car is upright on all fours and not flipped over by a little old lady.
A 80-year-old lady. I'm so sorry. Man, she played me. I thought about that just now. She totally played me. She was so nice and sweet, and I just,
Now, here's the problem. If you go out there to fight her and then she kicks your butt, you just got beat up by an old lady.
Did you get the black eye in the accident? No. You cracked me in the eye.
The accident, it was real bad.
Yeah.
Is that brass knuckles across your cheek there?
I took that cane, started beating the crap out of me. All right, NFL stuff. Couple of interesting NFL pops here. The Kansas City Chiefs will open their attempt to three-peat when they host the Baltimore Ravens in the annual primetime opener. It'll be played Thursday, September 5th, Arrowhead Stadium. Of course, that was the AFC Championship game. It is not a rematch. We have to stop that. One of my things in sports, the quality start is the dumbest stat in sports, second dumbest stat in sports behind one-loss records for quarterbacks in the NFL.
Okay.
The third thing that gets me is rematches.
Okay.
The only way this is a rematch, they play in the AFC Championship game. It's not a rematch on September 5th because the stakes aren't the same.
That's fair point.
It's not a rematch. I always love when you get that. It's a rematch of the Super Bowl. No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's week 13.
Right. And you know what? If the team that won the Super Bowl gets beat by 30 in week 13, you know what they do? It's okay. We got the Lombardi, baby.
Yeah.
We're good. This is not a rematch.
I was going to say, when the Patriots beat the Giants after one of those two Super Bowls, they didn't hand over the Lombardi trophy.
They don't go, well, you got us in the rematch.
It's not wrestling. This isn't a title change.
Right. So that's one of my things in sports. It is not a rematch of the AFC Championship.
That's a good point.
I read it right here. It's right here at ESPN. A rematch. No, it's not. Stop that. Not a rematch.
The two teams that played in the AFC Championship game will play each other to start the regular season.
There you go. Ding, 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 bleeping ding. Nice job by you. I think the Chiefs are going to open as 5-point favorites or 5.5 or whatever, as they should.
Now, they did lose their opener last year to the Lions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, remember, that was ugly, too. That was an ugly loss at home. That's why I always say, whenever everybody gets hot takey after week one, everybody relax.
Look, I have a hard and fast rule when it comes to football, especially in the NFL. I think you got to wait about 5 weeks to really figure out who's who in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the extremes, obviously, if you start 1-4, you're behind the 8 ball. It's not like you can't rally.
Sure.
But you're behind the 8 ball huge because they'll give you the stats of like X amount of teams do it. But you're right.
But that's a large enough sample size.
Right. You are correct. I usually look at the first month. Let the first month go.
Yeah.
Once you get to the end of the first month, you're getting a better idea. Now, look, can teams go on runs? Sure. Can teams soil themselves? Let's say they start 3-1 and go, sure. But you get a better gauge after a month. You really do in the NFL.
Yeah.
I've always said college football, I know they will never do this because obviously there's a reason they put out preseason polls, which really are kind of silly because you really don't know anything, especially today.
No.
I think the first poll should come out October 1st, to me, but I know it'll never happen.
It's a talking point, and because we have to assign a number to everything, because somebody's going to be number one at point in times. My thing is, and I don't understand why people get so bent out of shape about the AP poll, it doesn't matter.
No.
The AP poll has no bearing on anything. Yeah, all that matters now is college football playoff poll, and those committee people get into a room and decide who's who at that point in time. Like, until then, it doesn't matter. So, I can't believe they dropped us from 7 to 8. Who cares?
Don't worry about it.
It doesn't matter.
You know what you worry about? The college football playoff final poll.
Exactly.
That's what you care about. Like TCU went from unranked to playing for the national championship.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's a talking point. It's what we do. But if you really wanted to make a poll have anything to me, you wait a month.
Yeah.
But it gives us something to talk about in talking season.
It does.
And in the NFL, look, you lose your opener like Kansas City did last year. And look, the Lions were a legit playoff team, and a lot of people thought they could have possibly gotten to a Super Bowl last year.
For sure.
So that win did help Detroit confidence-wise, belief in Dan Campbell and his system, blah, blah, blah. But for the Chiefs, they went like this. Okay, we're 0-1. Who we play next week?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're going for a three-peat. I don't think they'll get one. It's just too difficult. Like, I didn't think Georgia would three-peat because the last team to do it was the 1844 Golden Gophers led by Fred Flintstone and George Washington or whatever.
Right.
It's just very difficult because part of winning a championship, and you know this, lady luck has to be on your side. Good fortune has to be on your side.
Definitely.
Because as good as you are, there's going to be times, especially in the postseason, where good fortune has to smile on you.
Right.
It just does. And it's really, usually you use up your good fortune bank at some point.
Right.
And I just don't know if you got enough in the good fortune bank for 3 years. I don't know. Are the Chiefs good enough? Oh, absolutely they are. Their defense last year was the best defense they ever had in the Pat Mahomes era. Mahomes is Mahomes. And last year, their wide receivers couldn't hold on to the football to save their lives until when, Tyler? The playoffs.
That's right.
Remember Valdez-Scantling, those big drops during the regular season? What are you doing in the playoffs, Tyler?
Caught some passes.
Caught the ball.
Very important ones at that.
Yes.
Rasheed Rice blew up. Now he's obviously got his own issues going on off the field. They brought in Xavier Worthy, who should be a suitable, piece of that offense, and obviously Travis Kelce's there too. So
if nothing else, Worthy with that speed, they can use that either big play opportunities down the field or to take a top off defenses to open up the rest of the field for the other receivers. So can Kansas City win 3 in a row? Sure they could. They got a Hall of Fame head coach. They've got talent. I mean, losing Snead, the DB, I think that hurts them. But what Kansas City has done, we don't talk about because we're always so fixated on Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and that offense. They've drafted so well.
Yep.
Because, again, Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback in NFL history that sucks up more than 20% of the cap, and his teams have won Super Bowl.
Yep.
That is difficult. You know how good you have to draft, Tyler, to pull that off?
Pretty dang good.
And they've been really dang good. They have a lot of cheap rookie contract talent that has helped them win.
I think that's a testament to Andy Reid.
Andy Reid and Brent Veach, the GM, and what they've done, and Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator. What they've done there, everybody's always Mahomes. That's the world we live in, and he's obviously already a Hall of Famer.
Right.
But what they've done in the other areas that need to be taken care of has been phenomenal. They don't get enough credit for it. They just don't.
Right.
So could they three-peat? Yeah, do I think they will? Probably no, because it's just so difficult. But they'll open up against the Ravens, again, like 5.5 point favorites, and we'll see what Baltimore does. Got the AFC Championship game, so they check the box with Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Now can you check the next box, which is go to a Super Bowl? They've got to replace some pieces, especially on the offensive line. We'll see. That'll be interesting. Plus, the AFC North is a bear.
Yes.
Cincinnati's going to bounce back because Joe Burrow will be healthy. Pittsburgh's Pittsburgh. They think they might have a quarterback. I'll be honest with you. I think Russell Wilson's going to be okay in Pittsburgh. You know why? The head coach I think Mike Tomlin will not be Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. Sean Payton from the get-go realized this isn't my guy.
Well, I mean, Russell Wilson was not brought in there to work with Sean Payton.
No.
Sean Payton inherited Russell Wilson and dealt with him as long as he could.
Well, Sean Payton he wants another Drew Brees.
Sure.
That's not Russell Wilson. So, not Bo Nix either. Did I say that out loud? So, Russell Wilson will go with a coach who will more embrace Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson also, Tomlin, I don't think will put up with any ridiculousness with Russell Wilson.
No.
And Russell Wilson knows now this is truly his last rodeo to show that he's still the guy that he was in Seattle.
Yep.
So I think Russell Wilson's going to be fine. I think he will be obviously a huge upgrade on what they've had in Pittsburgh the last couple of years.
Yep.
Pittsburgh's going to be tough. Cleveland's got talent. You know, that's a tough division, man. The Bengals, so we'll see what the Ravens do coming up this year. But Chiefs and Ravens, again, Thursday, September 5th, in prime time at Arrowhead. Chiefs will celebrate their back-to-back Super Bowl victories and hoping they can pull off a three-peat. Another interesting NFL story we're going to get to coming up. This one does not surprise me, and it's just got all the soap opera, and it involves the Jets.
Of course it does.
So we got to enjoy this. That's coming back because we're talking football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, till 3 on the game. We're rolling football here in the 1 o'clock hour on the game, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Another NFL note here, Tyler Head, I think is interesting. According to reports, Connor Hughes of SNY reports that the Jets made a legitimate attempt or attempts to hire someone who would, quote, run the show on offense over offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. That person would have not taken the coordinator title away from Hackett, but would have eventually or essentially replaced Hackett running the offense.
Okay.
Now, the only reason Nathaniel Hackett's there's two words.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Yes.
Nathaniel Hackett, if you look at his record as an offensive coordinator in the NFL, Jacksonville did a good job running the ball the 1 year with Leonard Fournette, the year they got the AFC Championship game and got beat by New England.
Which that is such an interesting footnote in their history.
An outlier of nobody's business.
Blake Bortles almost went to the Super Bowl. Think about that.
And then the Jaguars said, hey, let's extend Blake Bortles' contract. That worked out well.
Well, the Saxonville, that was the reason they were winning games, not Blake Bortles.
Right. So then Hackett, after the following year, when it all cratered, got canned by Doug Marrone, end up in Green Bay. Basically, the Green Bay offense is run by Matt LaFleur,
yes,
the head coach. Paul Hackett is the offensive coordinator in name only in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Nathaniel Hackett would show up at Matt LaFleur's office every morning, and Matt would go, okay, here's the coffee order, and then Aaron left some suits that need to go get pressed.
What?
And if you can get back by noon, my dog needs to go to the groomer.
I think Nathaniel Hackett hooked Aaron Rodgers up with the realtor that sold him that bungalow that he spent 3 days in the dark in last year. So he likes to keep him along, and
now he loves. If you hear him talk about Nathaniel Hackett,
they're like best buddies.
I mean, Hackett was like his boy.
That's the whole reason he got hired in Denver as the head coach, because they thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers, and they're like, "We'll give you Russell Wilson." I don't know what to do with him.
I don't know. I can't do anything with Russell Wilson. I can only work with Aaron Rodgers.
Can I have an office? I guess, sure.
Fine with me. You can't have mine, though, but you can have any other one. So, yeah, Nathaniel Hackett, I mean, the Green Bay offense was run by Matt LaFleur.
Yes.
Not by Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett's track record of success as an offensive coordinator, not a whole lot. So the idea, he's an offensive coordinator with the Jets because, well, one guy likes him. Aaron Rodgers. So Nathaniel Hackett shows up in New York last year. Rodgers gets hurt. The offense is abysmal. So now you're going to hang all of your hopes on Aaron Rodgers coming back from a blown Achilles at age 49, 52, 70, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if this report is true, it shows you the confidence they have in Nathaniel Hackett.
Right.
Now I'm going to say this about Robert Saleh. I like Robert Saleh. Seems like a harmless guy. I don't know if he's a good head coach or not. Right now I'm leaning toward no.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my thing. Is hiring Nathaniel Hackett what got you Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Because if you hired Nathaniel Hackett and now let's say this report is true, after 1 year of watching this guy, now you want to go hire someone else basically to take his gig.
Right.
That means you made a bad hire.
Pretty much.
It just did. And if you look at Nathaniel Hackett's track record, nothing in his track record screams I need to hire him to be the offensive coordinator except two words.
Aaron Rodgers.
Hire the right guy. Don't hire the quarterback's bud. I get if that's what it took to make all this happen or to make Aaron happy, hire Nathaniel Hackett and give him some BS title. Don't make him the offensive coordinator. But really what's going to happen here is Aaron Rodgers is going to coordinate the offense.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's going to tell, it's sort of like what Matt LaFleur did to Nathaniel Hackett in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is going to go, hey, man, I need a latte. I got some clothes over here to press, and my dog needs groomed. It's going to be the same thing, but Aaron Rodgers is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers knows that, I mean, it's going to be his call for the most part with Nathaniel Hackett because he can, manipulate him or do what he wants within his system. And if that's gone, then he's not going to have that guarantee. And could be butting heads with whoever that new offensive coordinator or whatever it may be.
So that's interesting that they were making legitimate attempts, according to a report, to go get a guy to run the offense.
Right.
that's very interesting. If you brought in Nathaniel Hackett just because of Aaron Rodgers, now you're going to go get someone else. It would have been interesting.
And it's interesting to me because, look, Aaron Rodgers, great player, obviously very smart when it comes to the game of football. He has to know that Hackett isn't that great, especially when it comes to his track record and everything like that. Like, I wonder why he's so loyal to this guy.
I think it's just I think that he feels comfortable around him. He likes him. They get along. He probably does. Nathaniel Hackett probably does a really good job of smooching Aaron Rodgers' butt.
Yeah,
when he needs
he doesn't give him a lot of pushback.
Exactly. And look, to be fair, this worked with Peyton Manning in Denver. It worked with Tom Brady in Tampa.
Yep.
Basically, these guys came in and said, "Okay, here's the offense I want to run." And Aaron Rodgers is going to do the same thing with the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett's his mouthpiece, and they're going to run with it like that. And again, it's worked in other places. We'll see if it works there. But make no mistake, Nathaniel Hackett has not been very good at this job before.
No.
So, again, just good old juicy drama going on with the Jets. So we'll see.
There's always something going on with the Jets.
Yeah, but they're so good usually. Oh, no, they're not. That's right. My bad.
Here's the thing. And because they're in New York, we're made to care. Mm-hmm. Because they're in, a big media market, obviously. Mm-hmm. Like, no team that's been this bad over the past decade should get talked about as much as they do.
No, well, look, I will say this. I think the same thing you can throw out there about the New York Knicks.
Oh, yeah, totally. Same thing. The Knicks are finally living up to it.
I mean, the Knicks haven't won a championship in 51 years.
Yeah.
In 51 years, they've been to the finals twice. I mean, they went through a nice little run with Pat Riley and Jeff Van Gundy, made the playoffs like 14 straight years, but
they play at the most famous arena. They have celebrities sitting courtside every single game. They're obviously in the top media market in the United States. Like, you can't not talk about them, but at the same time, it does become ridiculous when you're talking about a team that's eliminated from the playoff contention in January. Right. Like, ooh, how relevant are the Knicks right now? Not very.
I mean, you watch this postseason, you think that if you didn't know, if you just moved to this country, right, and started watching the NBA,
yeah,
you would think the Knicks are right there with the Lakers and Celtics.
Yeah.
And they're closer. They're honest to God closer to the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
Than they are the Lakers and Celtics.
The Knicks are the Cowboys of the NBA. Now, the Cowboys have had a little more success than the Knicks have in recent years, but not much.
Yeah, it's so funny just watching this Knick ridiculousness play out on ESPN every day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you understand that they're the Knicks. They're not the Celtics or the Lakers or Golden State or the Bulls they haven't won anything in a long time.
But they are so ready for them to win something.
Someone said this the other day, and I did throw up a little bit in my mouth. The NBA is just better when the Knicks are good. No, it's not.
Then it hasn't been good in a long time.
The NBA sucked for a long time then.
But I get the sentiment of what they're saying. When you have a team in your top media market that's doing good, that creates more buzz within that city.
Well, and too, look, again, I love New York.
Sure.
I do. I love New York City. I go to New York City, I'm like, this place is so cool. So I'm not a hater of New York City.
Right.
At all. But people who live in New York City thinks our country revolves around New York City.
Right.
They don't understand that once you get out of New York City, most people don't care about New York City.
Right.
The Yankees are the only true brand from that town that matter around the country.
Yeah.
Besides that, none of the rest of you matter outside of once you get outside of your burg.
And the Yankees have given you moderate to good success over the years to give you a reason to care about them.
There's 27 reasons. That's called
right.
Championships.
Right.
But for the most part, guess what, New York? Once people leave there, they don't care about the Jets, the Knicks, the Giants, the Mets. They don't care. They don't care. Rangers, Islanders.
And it's funny because the Giants have obviously won 2 Super Bowls in the past 15 years, essentially, but I feel like they're always still kind of positioned as that number 2 team within that New York, New Jersey market because people want to care about the Jets more, but the Jets haven't been good in 10 years.
They don't give you a reason to care about them. And so it's just so funny, but that's just New York. They think that everyone cares about they think all their teams are iconic and everybody around the country lives and dies on it like the way and guess what? We don't.
Nope.
I hate to break the news to you. All right, this is an interesting story. University of California Board of Regents is expected to accept a recommendation that UCLA pay Cal Berkeley $10 million a year for 6 years as a result of the Bruins' upcoming move to the Big Ten and basically the cratering of the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the surface, you think that's dumb. Why am I giving you money?
Right.
Not my fault. You are who you are, and you're at where you're at. Heck, your pretentiousness is one of the reasons why we don't have a Pac-12. Cal Berkeley. But what's interesting here, and of course, Cal Berkeley's moved on to the ACC.
Because that makes sense.
Well, they moved the whole thing. The whole campus is now on the Atlantic coast. There's a lot of political mechanisms in the state of California about the Board of Regents, and they can basically tell you can't move.
Right.
So you got to play some weird dance with the Board of Regents. So UCLA is going to have to end up having to cut a check in some way, shape, or form to Cal. I don't know how much. I don't know how long. But as silly as it sounds, they're going to have to, the way everything's set up in the state of California through the university system and the Board of Regents.
Right.
How about that? Southern Cal doesn't because they're a private school. All right, so that's football. We'll continue with our Firehouse Subtext the hour next at 803-404-6100 on the Halftime Show here on The Game. All right, time to check out our Firehouse Subtext, the hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Mr. Head?
I think we have a first for our Firehouse Subtext of the hour involving lacrosse.
Oh.
All right, nameless texter says, curious if Terry would root for Johns Hopkins or UMD if they advance to the lacrosse Final Four. So, for reference here, we have the, let's see here, quarterfinals coming up this weekend. Notre Dame and Georgetown, Denver and Syracuse, Johns Hopkins and Virginia, and then Maryland taking on Duke. So, Johns Hopkins and Maryland would take each other on in the semis. Who would you root for?
You know, that's an interesting text. Thank you very much on the Firehouse Subtext line. Probably now, because Maryland's been more successful recently than Hopkins. Hopkins used to be a dynasty.
I mean, that was like, when you think of college lacrosse, you think of Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
It's about the only sport you think of them in.
Yeah, that and medical school.
That's true. A lot of smart people there.
Exactly. I probably would root for Hopkins now because Maryland's been more successful lately.
Okay.
And Maryland's won a national championship a lot more recent than Hopkins. I'd like to see Hopkins get another one because I believe that. Look, I'm trying to remember this now because my top of my head doesn't work as good as it used to. Hopkins decided to start playing in the Big Ten. I
did not know this.
Lacrosse.
All right.
I could be wrong. I know they moved up in level of competition.
Let me check that.
Double check it. Because Hopkins hasn't been as good these last so many years than they used to be so dominant. It was ridiculous.
That's correct. They are in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten. They started competing, and that changed everything. Because, again, you just look at another level of athlete and everything else.
Which, the first year in the Big Ten, that was the last time they actually went to the Final Four.
Yeah. So they've had to do some retooling and just kind of like saying, all right, how do we compete in this level of a conference, in this level of a league? I'd like to see Hopkins win.
Now, what is the phenomenon in the Mid-Atlantic with lacrosse? Because it's something that doesn't have a lot of traction down here.
I'll be honest with you, because lacrosse it's just huge, and it's an interesting sport in a lot of ways.
Sure.
I never played it. I never picked up a lacrosse stick growing up. Just wasn't my bag. I picked up one to hit somebody, but that's another story, and the court documents are sealed. But first of all, the ball.
Yeah.
The ball is concrete.
Yeah.
It's another reason I didn't want to play.
I was like, that's why you got to wear helmets.
And well, the goalie's a nutcase.
Yeah.
Because they're winging that thing at you at high speed, and look at the goalie gear. It's not like hockey.
Sure.
I mean, I knew goalies that played lacrosse. You would see lacrosse ball marks on their legs. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I think I didn't play because the ball makes a baseball look like a Nerf ball.
Sure.
It just wasn't my thing. And honestly, and I'm going to say this. I grew up in blue collar neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Lacrosse is sort of a rich kid sport.
It is.
Because you need a lot of money to play lacrosse, and it's a rich kid sport. And obviously, we didn't have the money.
Which is weird because, I mean, yeah, you have like the equipment, but like, I feel like it's something that shouldn't be as upper crust as it is.
And it is. That's the sad part. It is a rich kid sport.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money to get the equipment, a lot of money to play. And my high school had it's really funny because my high school was not a rich kid high school.
Right.
We had a solid lacrosse team. And we were never great, but we were always above average.
Yeah.
But lacrosse, I have a few buddies who play, but it wasn't like all my friends said, let's get together and play some pickup lacrosse.
Sure.
Maybe I would have if it would have been more of a thing with my neighborhood. But
right.
In a blue-collar neighborhood, lacrosse sticks were used to break into houses. So
statute of limitations still.
Yeah, well, I can't talk about. Well, I didn't do it. I mean, I knew people who did it.
Sure, you did.
I wouldn't do anything like that. I thought it was awful and wrong. But yeah, it's a very interesting sport. And there's a lot of, be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff. If you ever want to get bored and deep dive, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the lacrosse culture that you would go, seriously?
Well,
really?
I know of some of the things that you're talking about.
Yeah, there is a lacrosse culture, and I don't want to stereotype and say everyone who plays it is the same type, but there is a fringe of the lacrosse culture, not the greatest crew in the world. We'll just leave it that way.
Very true.
But I'd root for Hopkins. I would.
Okay, there we go. That might be the first and only lacrosse question we ever get.
I appreciate that. That's pretty interesting. Firehouse text of the hour, 803-404-6100. It's a thing, though, man. The Mid-Atlantic up into the Northeast.
I know. It's a huge deal.
Denver has become a huge lacrosse program. Think about that for a minute. Out there out in the mountain time zone.
Can you play lacrosse in the snow? I guess you can.
Why not? But it's a sport that's got a little bit more traction, but it's always going to be niche. It's just a niche sport.
Sure.
It's played in certain pockets of the country, but not down.
Hey,
There's no lacrosse going on down here.
Until you start gambling on it.
If you can start gambling on it, guess what?
I'll take
prop bets.
I'll take John Hopkins +3.
Oh, man. Thank you very much on the Firehouse Subtext line for the very interesting lacrosse text. We appreciate it. All right, what's trending at 2 is coming up. Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Some interesting stuff. We'll get back to talking some baseball. Obviously not a good weekend for the Gamecocks. We will revisit some of Mark Kingston's comments in the postgame. That's coming up. Also some other interesting facts in the world of baseball. We got to start focusing a bit on baseball in the NBA playoffs. All that's coming up here on the game. When you want something done to your home's personal to you, right? Sure it is. And if you want to change the decor, the look, the lighting, maybe you want to, I don't know, put in a new tub, new shower, new appliances in your kitchen. I mean, that's like personal. It's your home. It's your house. Wouldn't you rather go with people who have like 70 combined years of experience in doing this, who can get your decor, your look, your feel, your vision, and do it in your budget? That's why you call the Nest. In the Vista, 1331 Gadsden, 803-978-2025. You come in for an appointment, you lay out your vision and your budget and your thoughts, and the Nest will make it happen for you. 70 years of experience, 803-978-2025. Again, 1331 Gadsden in the Vista. It is the Nest. Give them a call and have your house be your dream.
third. Casas leading off. Gamecock still looking for their first hit against Zach Harris, and it might be here. A drive to right. Back goes Goldstein. Goodbye. Senior day for Gavin Casas. And his 8th home run of the season ties this game at 1.
There is the Gavin Casas home run on Saturday. Casas went 2 for 4 in the Saturday loss to Georgia. But that home run, of course, early in the game, South Carolina had a 4-1 lead. They had a 6-4 lead, and things kind of spiraled out of control in the late innings and lost the Saturday game 14-6 and swept by Georgia.
You're telling me you didn't think they could score 8 runs in the bottom of the 9th?
I had some hope.
That, and you know what? I think that's kind of what the final kick in the teeth was, because obviously you had scuffled the entire series after that point. But even being down 10-6 going into that 9th inning, there's still optimism. They're like, okay, maybe we can put something together in the bottom of the 9th.
Well, you can score runs.
Exactly.
Right.
4, that's a lot, but it's not insurmountable. But then you give up 4 more runs, including that 3-run homer in the top of the 9th. It's like, all right, we're not scoring 8 runs here.
And that home run, I mean, look, McCreary's pitch was right down the middle, 90 miles an hour straight.
Yep.
The home run in the 9th inning, I don't even know if that was a strike. I mean, you want to talk about going down and getting a pitch?
Yep.
I mean, if you watch that replay, the Georgia hitter is almost dropping down and almost on his knees to hit that ball.
Right.
He golfed it. He golfed it out. So it was just, sometimes you tip your cap to a hitter and go, I don't know how you did that, man, but nice job. But, yeah, I mean, McCreary 90 down the middle straight. You're asking for trouble on that one. All right, let's get Coach Kingston postgame. First of all, we'll start off. Garrett Gainey had a really nice outing on Saturday. Got his first start of the season. Gainey was throwing well. He went 5 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, only 2 were earned, struck out 7, only walked 1. And then obviously the bullpen had issues with Veach and Eskew, Becker, McCreary, Wittig, and then Michael Polk came in to finish it up and get an out. So here's Coach Kingston on Gainey's performance and the bullpen after Gainey exited.
No, I didn't. I mean, the plan was Gainey, Veach, and then Eskew. Eskew, obviously, the last time he pitched on this field, he shut out Kentucky. And so surprised how today went, but Gainey did his job. That's exactly what we thought we would get out of him. 80 pitches was his pitch count because we have to work him up as we get towards regionals so that he'll be a 100-pitch guy for the regionals, but you can't snap your fingers and have that happen overnight. Veach came in and only gave up the 1 earned run, minimized some damage, and I liked where we were at that point. Again, we had a guy coming in the game with a 2-run lead with 2 innings to go that had thrown a shutout against Kentucky, so it just didn't work out.
Turn to Michael and be a good idea. That's the thing. Is it Eskew? Yeah, I mean, Dylan Eskew has been either really, really good or he's really, really struggled, right?
Right.
And there's been some times you've watched him pitch this year going, oh yeah, that's a weekend guy.
Sure.
There's times you watch him pitch, it's like, maybe he's not a weekend guy. And yesterday on Saturday, Eskew just struggled. Again, he's been a starter here recently, and sometimes you're bouncing from starter to reliever to starter, whatever. Some guys can handle that, and some guys are just much more comfortable one way or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So Eskew had a tough time. Matthew Becker, who has disappeared this year, which is interesting because at the end of last year, you thought Becker might be a starter in 2024. Remember, he was getting the ball early in the year, and then all of a sudden, Becker just disappeared, which was, I mean, I know he's not as good this year as he was at the end of last year. I get it, but, I mean, Becker has just gone off the map. And Connor McCreary, just the fatal grand slam. And here's Coach Kingston. Let's go with cut 3, the decision to bring in McCreary. And obviously, when your decisions don't work out, look, when players make plays, your decisions look great, right? When players don't make plays, your decisions don't look great. McCreary coming in, getting up a grand slam, that doesn't look great. Here's Coach Kingston talking about bringing in Connor McCreary.
It was a pretty easy decision for us. The results were not what anybody wanted, but the decision was very easy. That pinch hitter, Becker, was in there to face the lefty Goldstein coming up. They pinch hit for him because Jordan hits lefties at a 333 clip, and he hits righties. He hits righties at a 212 clip. So it was very easy to go from the lefty to the righty there. But we didn't make a good pitch, and obviously he hit the ball of the ballpark.
And that makes total sense, right? I mean, that's like almost a manager 101 move.
Right.
The guy coming up crushes lefties and is below average against righties. So I'm going to take my lefty out of the game and we'll bring in a righty.
Right.
That is sound strategy. But when you throw 90 straight down the middle,
Against a team that's pretty good at hitting the ball.
who's crushing it for 3 days, it's not an execution of the pitch you want. So the strategy, no matter how sound it comes out, it doesn't work. And all of a sudden why'd you bring that guy in? Well, here's why.
Right.
Makes sense, but it didn't work. Now, again, the strategy was smart, but when the execution doesn't follow the strategy doesn't work.
Right.
Very simple. Also, in the 8th inning of this game, in the strategy department, in the 8th inning of the game, you have given up a 6th spot in the top of the 8th, right? So now it's 10 to 6.
Yep.
Blake Jackson comes up and drops a bunt in the 8th inning. And Coach Kingston was asked about why dropping a bunt down by 4 runs that late in the game. And here's what the coach had to say when asked about the strategy to bunt.
Try to get another run. I mean, that's pretty simple. Blake's been getting on base a lot via the bunt. He's a multi-dimensional player. He's a speed guy. I think at least one more of our rallies today was a part of his bunt for hits and creating some chaos there, and that's a big part of his game, which is why he's in between Petry and Messina. So it was that, again, that was an easy decision, but we just didn't get him in after that.
I get where coach is going there. I mean, Jackson has bunted for base hits. He's dropped down sack bunts. He's ended up, beating out throws. I understand it. I've always had this one thing about bunting. I think a bunt is very valuable. There are managers today that they don't bunt. I think everyone on your team needs to know how to bunt, right?
Right.
And I think the bunt is valuable in key strategic situations, right? Me, again, if I'm down by that many, I'm probably not dropping a bunt at that point because I need a big rally, right?
Sure.
I need a lot of runs. I get where coach is going. For me, I probably would have let Jackson swing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the strategy sounds good. The run did score, but you gave away an out. And outs were valuable at that point in the game because you don't have that many and you're down by multiple runs.
Right.
But it's always good to hear, because look, sometimes we think as fans, like managers, just, you know what I want to do right here? Oh, what the heck? Let's just bunt. Or you know what? I've been wanting Connor McCreary in the game because you know what? Yeah, I like that uniform. No, there's a lot of there's always a method to the madness. Typically, it's just when it works, you're a genius game manager, right? And when it doesn't work, it's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's an extreme one way or the other. There's never like a in between of like, okay, I get it. Like it's either, wow, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen, or my God, that was awful. Why would he even think of doing that?
Right, because when it doesn't work, you don't want to hear it.
Right.
It just didn't work.
But I agree with you. I think in the situation that you're in, maybe small ball wasn't the way to go.
Yeah, I just don't want to give away outs. I get what coach is thinking because Jackson's been so good at executing bunts and making plays and getting on base. I just don't want to. I don't want to give away an out there.
Yeah.
In that situation, but the McCreary, I totally agree with what he did.
No, I get it. And again, if it ends up working out, it's like, hey, fantastic, great job. But again, when you're throwing straight down Broadway,
yeah. I mean, what a strategic move if McCreary gets the out there, right?
Yeah.
And he gets out of the jam.
For sure.
And there's no grand slam.
Yeah, and again, it's easy to look at this in hindsight and say, well, we shouldn't have done that. But again, I understand where he's coming from.
In that situation, I think almost every manager in the game of baseball or coach would have made the same move.
Makes a lot of sense.
It just didn't work. So, anyway. All right, one other little quick note from South Carolina. Let's switch over to basketball. Checking out Wes Mitchell and some others talking about Austin, Texas, Oak Hill Academy 2024 three-star power forward Jamie Vinson, former signee with Vanderbilt, will be visiting South Carolina. Sports Talk SC first reported the news per Oak Hill head coach Eric Stoneman. It's interesting because you know this is because you lost your guard.
Yep.
Noah got out of his letter of intent.
Yep.
And went to Kentucky.
No, shocker. He went to Kentucky.
Stunned. Kentucky kid goes to Kentucky. And the interesting part is if John Calipari's still at Kentucky, Noah's playing at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because Calipari never offered this kid.
Right.
But Mark Pope saw the value of, the guy can shoot threes. What else he's going to be in college, I don't know. He might just be a three-point shooter. He's really good at it. He shoots like 43% in high school.
Right.
So Pope, BYU shoots more threes than twos. One of the few teams in the country when Pope was coaching BYU last year shot more threes than twos.
They were not afraid to chuck it.
No, so it makes sense if you're Mark Pope, who's one of the best kids in the state shooting threes.
Right.
I'm gonna offer him, and if nothing else, he's a sniper from three for me.
Yep.
So I get it, but it's very interesting. If it's Calipari, this kid's not going to Kentucky. So that opens up a spot, and you would figure you're going to go get another guard or perimeter player. No, I don't know. Look, this isn't cast in stone that this kid's coming, but they say he does have perimeter game like stretch four-ish kind of game. So we'll see. But Jamie Vinson, former Vanderbilt signee, and he got out of it obviously because the coaching changed at Vandy.
Yep.
And now Vincent is available, and we'll see what happens as he visits South Carolina this week. All right. So there you go. We'll come back and hear what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. By the way, you buy any merch from Gamecock Traditions, a portion of that goes to the Garnet Trust as an NIL partner. We will come back. So we'll get a little bit of baseball. A guy you heard of made his Major League debut over the weekend, and the Braves almost had a no-hitter. Very close. Took their pitcher out, though, and he's okay with it. We'll get into all that coming up. What's trending at 2 right here. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, halftime show on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Sand Hills and Lexington, 2 locations. All right, spinning over to the world of Major League Baseball real quick. A couple interesting items from the weekend. Paul Skeens, you remember him at LSU when he was throwing over 100 miles an hour?
That's Livy Dunn's boyfriend, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy. By the way, she was at his debut.
You know, it's funny. Typically, it's always referred to, oh, this is so-and-so player's girlfriend. No, he's Livy Dunn's boyfriend.
Oh, absolutely. There are people who go, who's this guy you're with?
Yeah.
With the weird mustache.
Her boyfriend. Oh, I got it.
Exactly. So, Skeens, 17 pitches over 100 miles an hour. Numbers, because the bullpen didn't help him. Inherited runners scored.
Yep.
But Skeens, 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs. Did give up a bomb, by the way.
But here's the thing. When you go back and watch, because I kind of skimmed through his outing. They actually, MLB uploaded his full first inning.
Nice.
And I thought that was pretty interesting. But I would kind of skim through to watch some of it. You see it.
It's
and
there.
we obviously saw it when he was at LSU, came here to South Carolina last year. We know how good of a pitcher he is. But, looking at it at the major league level, this dude's going to be great.
If he stays healthy.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, he's going to be a good one.
Because he has more than just velocity. He has a variety of pitches he's been working on. His stuff outside of 102 miles an hour, he's building up his repertoire because eventually you have to use that in the majors. Because guess what? Major league hitters can hit 100.
Yes.
They can. I mean, don't get me wrong. They miss 100 too, but they can hit 100 a lot better than college players.
Right.
So you got to come to the mound with more than just a fastball registering 100 unless you just want to go be a closer.
Right.
I think Skeens is going to be really good if he stays healthy. That's going to be the key, is staying healthy. The line is 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, did strike out 7, gave up a homer. Threw 84 pitches. Now, he's not been throwing a lot of pitches in the minors, so he's got to get stretched out, and they have to get him throwing like a starter. And it's going to be interesting in Pittsburgh what happens, because the Pirates, they have a couple nice young pitchers, but they're notoriously cheap, and their owner, honestly, and it's criminal what happens in Pittsburgh. Bob Nuttick, who's the owner, is one of the 10 richest owners in baseball, but always has one of the lowest payrolls. The revenue sharing money he puts in his pocket. He's truly I just look at a spreadsheet guy, and it's awful. It's just awful. These are the kind of guys that should sell a guy like that should be forced to sell his baseball team.
Right.
So we'll see what happens with the Pirates moving forward. They have some nice young pieces. Skeens obviously is front and center. We'll see what happens moving forward in Pittsburgh. But Skeens, very nice start. Let's get Skeens talking about, this is kind of interesting. Most pitchers during a start will sit in the dugout. Paul Skeens is not one of those pitchers, and he explains.
I didn't see the first few innings. I don't sit in the dugout when I pitch, but after I came out, that was fun to watch.
Where do you go?
Just down the tunnel a little bit.
By yourself, or
yeah?
Not watching? Are you watching stuff, or are you just kind of walking in?
I pay attention to the game, but I have to do my job.
Interesting. Pitchers are quirky, man.
Pitchers are head cases.
They're quirky.
We know this with a lot of them. I brought this up about Garrett Gainey, when he went through those couple of games where he was struggling a little bit. And obviously he's a guy, high emotion, likes to be very animated when he's coming off the mound. That's great when it's going well. When it's not going well, then you do worry about that psyche, because pitching is such a chess match, as baseball in general is. And, for Skeens, I don't know how his new teammates feel about that this rookie doesn't want to, sit with the other guys on the bench. But, hey, if you pitch well,
nobody cares.
That'll be a pass. If you start sucking, they'll be like, doesn't even want to sit in with us.
Why don't you sit over here, bub?
Yeah,
Watch the game a little bit.
We can teach you a thing or two.
Well, I mean, I remember when Roger Clemens was pitching for the Astros, they flew him in for games.
I was going to say, he wasn't even a part of that team.
No, he just flew in, pitched, flew out.
He was the hired gun that you brought in for one game a week.
They'd land the plane in the bullpen. He'd get out, pitch, do his 6, 7, 8 innings, jump back on the plane, and take back off.
I was going to say, he was back home before the final out there, the ninth inning.
He didn't care. But you know what? Every time he took the mound, what happened?
He was good.
So nobody cared.
That's all that mattered.
That's all that mattered. And you go back to the head case part. I remember, and you know this, you're a huge Braves fan, John Smoltz early in his career went to a sports psychologist. Mm-hmm. He was struggling, and that helped make him John Smoltz, because he had to, again, pitching is so much from the neck up, and people don't understand that.
I go back to recent history when the Braves were in the series against the Cardinals in 2019, beginning of the postseason. Foltynewicz, that critical game 3, where he gave up 8 runs in the first inning, and they had to take him out. The next year, almost a full calendar year later, because it was delayed because of COVID and everything like that, he tried to pitch and just it wasn't there. Like he was done for.
Yeah, and I remember talking about Rick Ankiel was a really good young pitcher with the St. Louis Cardinals. I think he was Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden couldn't throw a strike.
Yeah,
ended up becoming an outfielder / DH.
Will Sanders last year right here.
Yeah,
I mean, here's a dude that just could not get in the right headspace for pitching, and I mean he had to sit out a couple series. He eventually came in the bullpen in the late half of the season, did well with that, but the guy that was supposed to be the ace of your staff couldn't get his head right and struggled.
Some guys, it's just because again, pitching is such a mind game.
Yeah,
like you hit it perfect. The chess match between pitcher and hitter, and so much of being a starting pitcher is knowing how to win that chess match. It's not just your stuff, but it's how you use your stuff going through a lineup multiple times.
Right.
And I think Skeens has got a ton of game.
For sure.
And, I was reading this deep dive article about his first start, and they were bringing up some of the other can't-miss kind of guys who injuries derailed their careers, like a Mark Pryor, Steven Strasburg. But if Skeens can stay healthy, he's got the stuff to be a top level pitcher for a long time. He really does. So and he's a worker.
Yeah.
So he got his first major league start on Saturday. By the way, the Pirates won 10-9. Also, this was interesting. Max Fried. So Max Fried over the weekend goes out and throws 7 innings and no hit ball, 109 pitches against the Mets, and then Fried's taken out of the game. Iglesias loses the no hitter in the ninth.
With 2 outs in the ninth.
And first of all, the mentality of this is very interesting. Again, Fried's throwing 109 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I checked, it's May.
Yes.
And the world we live in, look again, I get it. A lot of old school guys go, seriously? Nolan Ryan threw 304 pitches in a no-hitter. You're not wrong. It's just a different world now. Pitchers are trained different.
Yep.
The mindset is different. The idea of pitching is different from top to bottom about baseball today.
Right.
You don't have to like it. Max Fried didn't walk up to Snit and say, dude, I hit 100 pitches, get me out of here.
Right.
So Fried throws after 109 pitches, 7 innings and no-hit baseball is taken out of the game. And basically Snit said, look, it's a long season. He's at 109 pitches in May.
Yep.
We weren't bringing him back out. And in the way baseball is set up today, and the way pitchers are trained today, and the mindset of a pitcher today, and God, this makes me sick to say it, I understand.
Yeah, well, and this is 2 out of his last 3 starts, he's done this. Now, he went 6 innings against Seattle the other week, also giving up no hits. Now, he had reached about the same number of pitches through 6 innings then, so there's no way you're going to let him run another 3 innings. Like, as much as you want to see him chase the no-hitter, you can't take that risk.
It's just the world. It's different now. It's just different. Pitchers throw different. Everything's different. The old days are gone.
Sure.
I mean, do I think a pitcher, look, the old school guy in me thinks a dude should go out there and he gives up a hit.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's a no-hitter. There's something about a no-hitter that's special and romantic and all that stuff.
Sure.
But if you're thinking about the way pitchers are trained today, dudes throwing 125, 130, 135 pitches. So Johan Santana did this and threw a no-hitter years ago for the Mets, was never the same pitcher.
And I think it's worth hearing his explanation on this as well, because he was not upset about the decision to get him pulled.
Pop it.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I was not very good with my command at all. I was just shooting a lot of pitches all over, just felt like for a hitter or two throughout there, just kind of lost it a little bit. And, when you're going 3-2 on a lot of guys and you're walking 3 to 4, you're probably not going to be able to efficiently get through 9. So I had a good idea. I was fortunate enough that a lot of the balls, some of the hard hit balls just went at guys too, but felt like I was just trying to keep us in the game as long as I possibly could.
So he could feel it starting to trend the other way, and you know that's good on him for noticing that. And you know, looking at the last 2 innings that he worked, the bottom of the 6th, fly out, fly out, fly out, and then the bottom of the 7th, his last inning, ground out, line out, and then a K to end things. So you know he was benefited from the balls getting hit to guys, the defense taking care of things, but he kind of feel that command slipping a little bit.
The interesting part is he says I was kind of all over the place. He only averaged 15 pitches an inning.
Yeah,
which is about what you want.
Sure.
And it does. It drives people crazy today. Again, I got a lot of old school baseball buddies. This stuff drives them nuts. And I always say to them, yeah, no, you're right. When starting pitchers were different and used differently and trained differently and the thought of all this was different, that dude stays out there and gives up a hit.
Yeah.
But it's just a different world in the way this whole thing is done. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But the way starting pitchers are groomed today, having a guy go 120, 130,
right.
You're asking almost for something bad to happen. You just are.
And tip of the cap, what a last 4 starts it's been for Max Fried. Through his Maddox against the Marlins the other week, full game, under 100 pitches with only 3 hits allowed and no runs. Has the 6 hitless innings against Seattle, and then 7 hitless innings against the New York on Saturday. Like, he's on fire right now.
Yeah. And he's been pitching fantastic. He's pitching like the ace that he has been in the past.
Which again, when you're down Spencer Strider for the rest of the year, you need Max Fried to be at his absolute best. I know he had that rough first outing against the Phillies to start the season, but since then he's been consistently good outside of a few games here or there, but he's hitting his stride now.
And that's the other part. You think you don't have Strider, the last thing you want to do is put Fried out there for 135 pitches to throw a no-hitter.
Exactly.
And then God knows what happens in his bounce back. I mean, does he have problems after doing that?
Right.
So again, I'm with you, old school guy.
Yeah.
I understand, but it's all different now. It just is. And you're going to see a lot. You'll continue to see this happen. If a guy's pitch count gets high and he's throwing a no-hitter, he's coming out.
Right.
It's just the world now. All right, we'll come back in here. Today is May 13th, Tyler.
Greatest day in the history of the world.
Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. That is next on the halftime show here on the game. All right, time for the greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Interesting day. A lot of NHL playoff hockey. You got some NBA playoffs in here. Also, obviously, the golf season going, Major League Baseball. So we'll throw in a few things for you here. Going back to 2014, Henrik Lundqvist was one of the best goalies of his time with the New York Rangers. Lundqvist set an NHL record on this day with his 5th straight Game 7 victory between the pipes as a goalie. Lundqvist made 35 saves. Rangers won 2-1 over the Penguins to earn a spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. Again, this day in 2014. 2012, throw a little soccer at you. Manchester City wins the English title for the first time in 44 years with a 3-2 win over Queen's Park. First title again in 44 years for Man City. 2007 PGA Players Championship at Sawgrass, a dude named Phil Mickelson won by 2 strokes over Sergio Garcia of Spain. The event played for the first time in May of that year. In 2005, Tiger Woods misses the cut at the Byron Nelson Championship. That ended his record, 142 consecutive cuts made over 7 years on the PGA Tour. Tiger needed a par on the 18th, and he missed a 15-foot putt that bogeyed, put him 1 shot over for the tournament and 1 shot away from making the cut. Again, that was 2005. 1993, Kansas City Royal George Brett records his 300th career home run. Of course, Brett, 3,000 hits in his career, Hall of Famer. Phenomenal hitter was George Brett. His 300th career home run on this day in 1993. 1976. Well, I'll get to that one last. 1958 first. Something that happened, back before SportsCenter. Stan Musial gets his 3,000th hit with a pinch hit double in a Cardinal win over the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Again, Musial's 3,000th hit. Stan Musial, maybe the most, or one of the most underrated great players in the history of baseball. You just never hear about Stan Musial. He's phenomenal hitter. 1976. This is the one that sent me down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to lie to you. The New York Nets overcome a 22-point third-quarter deficit to beat the Denver Nuggets to win the last ABA championship in 6 games. That Nets team had a dude named Julius Erving. That was pretty good. Averaged almost 30 points a game. Also on that team was a guy named Al Skinner. Remember, he was head coach at Rhode Island. Brian Taylor was a good player. They had a few excellent ABA-type guys, but Julius Erving obviously is the big name. That led me down the rabbit hole because Erving, of course, put up some stupid numbers in the ABA back in the 70s. And Erving also, this is what's cool, Julius Erving in 72, I bookmarked it. Because again, I went down a rabbit hole. 1972-73, Julius Erving played for the ABA team, the Virginia Squires. That year, Erving averaged over 30 points a game. On his team that year was a rookie from Eastern Michigan named George Gervin. If you're an old basketball dork, you know how great George Gervin was. So George Gervin and Julius Erving were actually on the same team in the early 70s with the Virginia Squires. Both just high-level scorers. Of course, Gervin did it in San Antonio and Dr. J with the Nets and then moved on with the Sixers. But yeah, anyway. The last ABA championship on this day in 1976. Very cool. All right, I will have our Firehouse Sub Text the Hour coming up here in just a little bit at 803-404-6100. We do have a Twitter X poll up. I want to get your thoughts on it, obviously, so you can go to our little Twitter X account at 1075 The Game. Poll question of the day: after the sweep against Georgia, what is your investment level in this season right now? 4 different choices. 1 is don't stop believing. 2 is cautiously optimistic. 3 is pessimistic but invested. 4 is ready for football season. Right now, ready for football season is leading the way at 43%. Pessimistic but invested, 34%. Cautiously optimistic at 14%. Don't stop believing at 9%. Not surprising. You look again, that was a gut punch over the weekend if you're a Gamecock baseball fan. That was a tough one. One thing you didn't expect was to get swept. You're like, well, Georgia's good. Maybe you lose 2 out of 3. That would stink. But, don't expect to get swept. I said that was a series. It's in your best interest to win 2 out of 3 if you want to hold on to hosting because, chances are you're going to go to Knoxville and have trouble with Tennessee. Now you have to go sweep Tennessee if you want any shot at hosting. Any shot. So I get the fan base. Now, Tyler and I talked about this earlier. If you would sweep Tennessee and then come back and do a new poll, it would flip 180. Don't stop believing or cautiously optimistic will be ahead. Right now, ready for football season at 43%, then pessimistic but invested is 34%. So 77% is either ready for football season or pessimistic. Now, we just put this up a few hours ago. We've already got 235 votes and 1.7 views on it. So feel free to jump in. Again, that's our Twitter X poll.
You're telling me you don't have a lot of Journey fans out there?
Yeah, Don't Stop Believing is a historic tune.
Absolutely.
Hear it all the time, pop up out of nowhere in movies and TV shows. And
it's one of those things, anytime you have to sing along. No matter where you're at, everybody knows the song.
Yeah, everybody knows the lyrics. No matter how bad you sound, everybody sings it together and screams it. And
it's a way to unify.
Yes, just like Sweet Caroline.
Oh, of course.
But what was the last thing? I heard Don't Stop Believing in something here recently again. And I'm like, wow. It just never goes away.
It really doesn't.
I read, was it Rolling Stone? Yeah, Rolling Stone interview with Steve Perry.
Mm-hmm.
If the members of Journey were on fire and Steve Perry was across the street, he would go over and roast marshmallows and eat s'mores off of them.
Supposedly so. Now, the guy that is the front man for the band now, and I can't remember his name, sounds just like him.
It's creepy.
I know.
It's creepy how much he sounds like Steve Perry, man. And the first time I heard, I'm like, I was on TV.
You think it's the same?
Well, I thought it was just like some Journey cut somebody was playing, right?
Sure.
Just like Steve Perry.
Sure.
I turned the corner, I'm like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
And then somebody told me what was going on. I'm like, oh my God, that guy sounds just like Steve Perry.
I know, it's great. I think he they found him on YouTube or something like that.
It was something bizarre where they're like, oh my God, he sounds like Steve Perry.
Yeah.
We got to get this cat.
We were talking about this last week with Brian Johnson, replacing Bon Scott in AC/DC. Very similarly sounding, which again, Bon Scott had that like throaty graveliness to his voice that is hard to replicate, but Brian Johnson's pretty darn close.
And that guy I can't think of his Aoki, I think his name is or something.
Oh, let me check.
But he sounds just like Steve Perry. It's weird. But yeah, Steve Perry, not really. From what I read, again, it was just Steve Perry's, his side of the story. Basically, Journey wanted to go on tour because, again, you're touring today. You're making a ton of money if you're a band from the 80s or 90s, right?
Right.
And Journey wanted to get out on tour to start making some serious dough by, hitting the road. And Perry, he fell on a hike, and he wasn't ready physically to go, and he wanted more time. And they said, no, dude, kick rocks. We got to go make money.
Arnel Pineda.
I was so close. Aoki. I don't know where Aoki came from.
You're thinking of the DJ.
Yeah.
Steve Aoki.
There we go. Thanks for bailing me out on that one. I appreciate it.
All good.
So, yeah, he sounds so much like Steve Perry. It's just crazy. He's like his 40s or something.
He's in mid 50s now. When he joined the band,
he was in his 40s.
He was in his 40s.
Because it was like he was older than you thought. You see him, you don't think he's that old.
Yeah, very very young looking guy.
Young looking guy. So anyway, all righty. So that's where we're at with our Twitter X poll. Feel free to jump in there at 1075 The Game on Twitter X. We'll come back. Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100. Get you ready for the post game show as well with Jay and Elijah here on The Game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Jay Phillips hanging out with us. What? Hey, hit that button. There you go. I know you're new at this.
Yeah. How you doing, Terry?
What's up, man? What are you doing? What's going on?
Ask me in a little while.
Yeah, it's all right. You're going to be okay. Breathe. You just breathe. Everything's good.
Tyler had a good day. Yeah.
Tyler had the best weekend of anybody.
Yeah.
Still picking tire rubber out of my teeth.
That's good. Only bad thing for Tyler's weekend, I guess, was that home run last night by Nimmo. Come on, man.
You know, I had a good enough day. That didn't bother me.
Sure.
Well, the guy that wasn't supposed to play.
Hey.
You know, he was like, well, wasn't he like, wasn't he getting a blood transfusion at noon or something? And all of a sudden he hits a home run?
Something.
He wasn't supposed to play. Maybe pinch run.
Yeah.
That was the word of Nimmo. Maybe pinch run. He comes up and hits a game winner.
Now, Jay, knowing your utter disdain for the Mets,
yes,
did the fact that they did not get the full game no-hitter against them bother you for the rest of the weekend?
Not for the rest of the weekend, but it did bother me. I mean, when you think about because the Braves won the series in New York, so I'm good with that.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
Like there's number one, win the series. But to lose a no-hitter on a home run, and then the following night to lose the series on a home run, both of which were like, not unexpected home runs, but like, really, man, like that was kind of rough.
Now you're like me.
Because I was all excited they were going to sweep. I was like, man, the Braves about to sweep the Mets. This is great.
See, you're like me. You and I kind of like stand on that fence between old school and new school baseball.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier about taking Fried out. There's 109 pitches, 7 innings. The old school part of me is like, no, we don't do this. But the way pitchers are groomed today, and you and I had this conversation about starting pitching last week. We were yipping.
Yeah.
109 pitches in May. The way these guys are trained now and the way they're groomed to pitch, as much as the old school guy in me hates it, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Snit said it. He goes, look, we're here to win a World Series. We're not here to throw no-hitters. It's in our best interest in early to mid-May to get that cat out of the game after 109 pitches.
And that's a lot of pitches.
It is.
But
I know. It just the old school person that just goes, no.
And then you get 5 more outs, and then you didn't.
And we played the cut from Fried. You know, he could tell it was slipping a little bit. You were relying on your defense a little bit more those last couple of innings. So the feasibility of holding that through 9 innings likely was starting to diminish a little bit.
And this is my point. Tyler makes a great. This goes right to it. Let's go back to the. We'll just go back to. Let's go to Smoltz for a minute.
Okay.
Smoltz has got a no-hitter.
Yep.
He's thrown 109 pitches.
Yep.
Bobby Cox is coming to get him.
John Smoltz is then arrested for battery.
Yes.
Of an elderly man.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my point. But Fried, because again, the pitchers are groomed different now and they're trained different.
Yeah. But Fried, you know what? But here's the thing. Bobby wouldn't have done.
No, he wouldn't have come to get him. That's a different baseball world.
Yeah.
Then Bobby would have sat there blowing
bubbles. He'd have been on
bubbles.
the bench. He'd have been doing that. Come on, Johnny.
Well, here's the thing. Bobby would have been ejected in the 3rd inning anyway for something else.
And then and Leo's just sitting there rocking back and forth as Smoltz is throwing the no-hitter. Yeah. It's just a different world, a different mindset now. And starting pitchers, there's a line they use that you would never hear from an old school starting pitcher. I just want to give us a chance to win.
Right.
Or I want to go 6 and keep us in the game. The old school starting pitcher throws up in his mouth when he hears that.
Under Bobby, Kent Mercker had a no-hitter in L.A., and the Braves tossed a combined no-hitter in Atlanta. And honestly, man, I just remember Alejandro Pena was the closer. I can't remember who.
Alejandro Pena.
Can't remember who. And I remember Alejandro was mad at Otis Nixon, who caught the last out because Otis tossed the ball in the stands.
Oh, man.
And Alejandro wanted the ball. And then I guess Glavine had the one-hitter in the World Series.
Yep.
Because the Braves says that they haven't had a no-hitter since '94, right?
Yes, but they're one of the longest now.
Kent Mercker in '94, and it was in L.A. I remember because I honestly, the reason I remember that one, we were painting our den. And we were up so late. The game was in L.A.
You knew where you were when it happened.
Because we were painting the den. And yeah, Nuxie had a no-hitter in like 78.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Late 70s. I remember that. You know what's interesting?
Braves haven't had many.
It's interesting because we were going over this, Tyler and I, was it last week?
Yeah, I think, was it Newcomb a couple years ago that almost had one?
Almost.
Yeah.
Think about it for a minute. Kent Mercker, who was a solid major league pitcher, threw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Greg Maddux has never thrown a no-hitter.
In fact, did Maddux even throw a one-hitter? I'll double check that, but I'm not
sure he did.
I don't know. Again, Glavin's one hitter was Game 6 of the World Series. Well, of course, that wasn't a complete game, though.
Yeah, but still phenomenal.
Yeah. Regardless, Freed's on fire right now.
Yeah.
By the way, Firehouse subtext the hour.
Got to hit it real quick.
Got to hit it real quick.
Yes, nameless texter weighs in and says, I feel like Kingston has become like Eddie Fogler in basketball. Both have won at an above-average level in their respective sports, just don't seem to connect with the fans with their business-like mentalities.
Wow, I wish I'd had more time to. I would not compare what is Mark's going through to what Eddie went through. Eddie knew he had a rebuild. Eddie had an AD boss who had unrealistic expectations for the program. I don't think the expectations, as long as they are about hosting every year, are unrealistic for Mark. And Mark's team's getting ready to go to the tournament again. So I guess I kind of get that.
I think there's a lack of patience, obviously, with the fan base that wants to get back to Omaha.
They do. And it's been 12 years. No, it's been a long time.
Feels like a long time when you got used to it, right?
Yeah, it's a long time.
Tyler, fine job, my friend. Always good hanging out with you, bud.
Yeah, we have Mark at 3:30, so tune in. We'll see what he has to say.